Share, share screen with your audience. How about we share the link? Copy the link to clipboard. We're gonna paste that. Boom. All right. YouTube Live. Oh, that is a terrible thumbnail. All right. We go over here. We go to Facebook. We go boom. Discard. What's on your mind, Kenneth? Well, here's what's on my mind, Facebook. You guys are stupid, so I'm gonna post that link there. Terrible program. Message. Go to Joshua because I know Joshua's trying to watch it. Control V. Boom. Edit that. I'm gonna post. Enter, enter, enter. Copy here. My lesson to stream. Facebook is dumb. Boom. Okay, hit save. All right, let's see. Hey, that works. All right, cool, that works. All right. I'm going to pretend like I already played the song. Somebody that's okay, cool. You already commented. All right, so where did I start off from? Oh, yeah, I had already started this off earlier with pretty much saying I had a few things I wanted to go over that I missed from lesson one, which, man, having to restart all this kind of jumbles up the brain. I was not prepared for that. So one of the things that I had last weekend during Samhain is my mother-in-law, we were sitting down and she decided to ask me, it's like, hey, and I should have gone over this last week, but she had asked me, who all can practice this? Because she doesn't have any Norwegian in her. She doesn't have any Scandinavian. She doesn't know what she is. I mean, she might have Scandinavian, but she just doesn't know, right? So I pretty much sat her down and I said, I'm really glad that you're asking this question. First off, can you guys even hear me? That'd be a really good thing to know. But I pretty much told her, anyone can practice animism, be it the Norse Pagan version or anything. Yeah, everybody, I'm assuming that person, Roedrith, whatever. Sorry, terrible with names. I'm assuming that you are, yeah, Josh. That's what I was getting there. But yeah, everybody at some point in our family lineage, you go far enough back, we were all pagan animists. We were all animists. Everybody. So anybody can follow it. And we're all connected anyways. Like, my wife's a spiritual being, I'm a spiritual being, my son's a spiritual being, my mother-in-law is a spiritual being, and we're all connected to this world, great wide world Earth. So, world Earth? Yeah, anyways, you know what I mean. So, anybody can practice this. So, that's one of the other great things. And then the other thing that I forgot to touch on, and I'm really kind of annoyed at myself for missing this one, but I was kind of speeding through everything last week because I'm relatively nervous, was explaining. I said a lot that, the Landvittir are very important and we need to honor them and all of that stuff, but I never really said, hey, how do you respect them? How do you honor them? How do you, do this and that? Well, one of the best ways is you give offerings to them. So you could take, a little bit of mead, and you could go out and you could pour it in saying, giving an offering, saying, Landvittir, I offer you this glass of mead to keep the land safe, keep us protected, and stuff like that. Or you could do it with food. You could leave them an offering of food, wish them well while you're doing it. That's part of the process. I did? I don't remember, to be completely honest. I know that there were some parts that I said that I would go into more depth. Like the hug is going to be really important. I remember, nice South Park reference. Member berries. Anybody remember those? All right, so getting into this now. So lesson one, we went over the hammer or the ham, the hug, also known as the huger. We also went over the fjellge. We went over the hamminga. And I'm sure you guys remember the hammer is the flexible form of the soul. It's the skin. It's the outward appearance. It moves. It's transformable. the Huger or the Hug, that is your thought soul. The Fjölga is your guardian spirit or your animal companion spirit. Pepperidge Farm remembers. That's a good one. That's good. And then Haminga is like your luck spirit or your good fortune spirit. So there's that. Now, so we're gonna go in. We're gonna start talking about these. That Mjolnir is kind of in the way. Here, let me put it up here. It's less in the way. Now it's kind of like, let's make it. It's lesson in the way, my wife says. Ha ha ha! That's a good dad joke from a mom. Anyways, so we're gonna go over the leek. Yes, it's pronounced leek. It's an I with a long E sound, leek. And then you're going to go over the und, and then we're going to go over the oder, the Minni, and then finally we're going to get to Draupnir, which anybody who understands or already knows the myths will know what Draupnir is. But that's kind of the final culmination is Draupnir. So, starting off with the leek. Now, we went over, what was it, the hammer. So that is the skin. Well, underneath of the skin, we have the leek. This is going to be what the hammer goes around. So it's going to be like your muscles, your bone, the physical body underneath of your skin. So when you need to, like, say, when you're working out and you're getting stronger and you're building that muscle, you're building up your leek. So that's, as it says here, the physical body, the frame of the flesh and bone. So that's where we're at. So I pretty much went over what it is. So now we'll go into the actual content. By the way, I think it should be in the comment description. Somebody should tell me if I did or not, but it should. There is the PDF to this that you guys can follow along with. I'm sure somebody probably is able to tell me if it's there or if I was dumb and I forgot it. But it's on the Facebook stuff. Okay, cool. Thank you for letting me know you can see it. Also attached to the description is a song, which is what should have been the opening song for when we went live. But that was on the Facebook, and I wasn't going to play it a second time because that was like 5.5 minutes long, and I'll play it at the end of the video. Anyways, now I'm just kind of rambling. So, yeah, it's the raw substance. It's the meat, the potatoes that are inside of you. Yes, we are a pot cooking, all right? We got a stew. We're a stew. Okay, we got a stew pot. Whatever. All right. And our soul is a stew pot. A whole lot of meat, potatoes, and carrots and onions, with some Shrek layers. All right. So why is the leek viewed this way? The leek is viewed as the corpse of the dead body to highlight the fundamental Norse principle that the physical body is nothing without the spiritual self. Its multi-part distinction, it emphasizes the sharp distinction between the physical matter, leek, and the spiritual form, the hammer, and the consciousness, the hug, which is the mind thought, right? And that it animates it. So all of those combined end up animating the leek and who you are as a person. Materiality and decay, it acknowledges the body material and temporary nature, unlike some of the other soul parts that we have, which may be inherited. Those are going to be like your Haminga or your Fjölga. Those are inherited spiritual traits, or a continued journey. The leek is destined to decay and return to the earth, a natural process of reconfiguration in the animistic cosmos. So that's like the whole rebirth cycling process. This is the physical part. This is the shell. This is what we carry in this generational context, right? So when we go through the rebirth cycle, we're not going to have the same leek. We're going to have a different leek. And how do we take care and respect the leek? Well, all right, I don't even need that for this. So we need to take care of it by eating the right foods, exercising. We need to make sure that, we get out and we do stuff. You just don't sit around and be a couch potato and get this. This is trucking life. That's not taking care of my leek, all right? I'll be honest. I'm not the best at it. They're definitely, those bodybuilders, they do pretty good. Although some of them, they go, and they go, and they're all swole, but that's not taking care of it. Let's be completely honest. They look like phenomenal, but at the same time, it's not good for your health. Um, so just eating the right stuff, not ingesting stuff, not being a complete and total alcoholic. I'm not saying I'm an alcoholic. I only drink on the weekends. um, so I mean that's pretty much it. And not only is it like the physical taking care of yourself, but there's like an emotional, mental, spirituality side of it that you need to take care of. Because yes, you could do all the strength training in the world. You could go running for miles. You could eat all the food right and avoid all of the fast food, junk food. But if you're not good up here, it does have a drastic impact of what's going on in here and how well you're taking care of it. So that's really important in taking care of the leak. So then we're going to move on to why is it, we've already gone over all of that. I guess we can go over the connection to other components, the concept connected to the leak, the hammer, the form vessel. The leak is the material body, the hammer is the spiritual appearance or the shape of that body. So that, again, that's like our skirt. It's the physical appearance that adheres to it. When the leak is harmed, or the leak is harmed when the hammer is spiritually damaged, or even physically damaged. I should have probably put that in the text, but also physically damaged. If you get pierced by a knife in your hammer, and it goes through and it hits your muscle, well, you just damaged your leak. But it can also, if you're spiritually not well, it can, you can get, those, what is it, crow's feet or something like that, wrinkles, all that. Yeah. Going on to the Huger or the Hug. By the way, Hug is the way the Norwegians say it. It's the way they pronounce it. They're in the other Scandinavian cultures, they pronounce it differently. The Hug, how it connects with the Hug, if the animator, the Hug consciousness will provides the intent and mental energy that turns the raw leak from a corpse into a functioning capable of action. So basically, it's like, what's going on here tells me that I'm doing this, right? The brain tells the leak to do things, right? So does that make sense, people? I'm sure it probably does. Then we're going to go into the Landvettir. This is again, the nature spirits. I also forgot to touch on in the first lesson that Vettir pretty much means, other than just spirits, I can't read that from here. There's a leak in the boat. That's cloudy with a chance of meatballs. There's a leak in the boat. Landvettir. Vettir, it doesn't just mean spirits, it also means the whites. It's another term idea for spirits. Anyways, with the Landvettir, the reciprocal return, the leak is part of the self that literally returns to the earth. I put in here sentient cosmos, but for what's the word? The poor man's wordage, lingo. Anyways, to the earth. It returns back into the earth. Upon death, the leak decays and its components are reconfigured into, like I said, the earth, rejoining the domain of the Landvettir, which are the immediate things that we see on the planet. The Fjölga and the Hamminga, the leak is the physical body protected by the Fjölga, so that's going to be the protector one, not the animal one, guardian, and the recipient of the physical reward, health, wealth, that is bestowed by the Hamminga luck. So whatever we get that's good to us, physically gets that back. And I think we're done on that one. Jesus, my fat fingers can't go through it. And the next one that correlates to another thing that we had. So we're going to go into the Minni. Now, Minni is related to the Hug because they are both within the mind. The Minni is your memory. So, like you have Hugin and then you have Munin. Hugin is thought. Mugen is memory. And in the sagas, Odin ended up saying that he fears losing Mugen more than he does Hugin. He worries more about losing his memory than he does his thought, because with the memory comes the ancestral memory. So like your past lives and all of that stuff, all the gain of wisdom of knowledge, that memory gets stored up here. He fears losing all of that knowledge. Um, but I think I jumped a little far. Um, so why is it important? The Minni is vital because it links the individual to the continuum of their lineage. Like I said, the path's life part, um, providing strength, identity, and wisdom in a consistent changing world. So when you go through the world, and you remember certain things, or like you gain that knowledge and you think back on it, um, it gets stored somewhere, and that's your Minni. So Minni's going to be memory. How do we respect and utilize the Minni, honoring the ancestors? The primary way to respect the Minni is by remembering and honoring and commemorating the deeds of the dead, ensuring their lessons are not lost. I really kind of wish that I had actually gone over this one last weekend, because we had Samhain, which is a veneration and remembrance of the ancestors in the Celtic tradition, and then a couple days later, it was like on the 5th, we had Alphablot, which is the exact same thing, where we pay our respects to our ancestors. So the Minni has a lot to do with that. We remember those who came before us, and we can honor them. That's how we respect that. Storytelling and teaching, actively passing down historical and mythical knowledge, wisdom, and the family sagas to ensure that the Minni is redistributed and reborn within the next generation. I think you guys can all understand that one. Is there a difference between physical memory and spiritual? For example, people with Alzheimer's, do they lose their spiritual memory as well, according to the teachings? Ooh, that's a deep one. Um, so if you lose your Minni, it's gone. That is part of why, and that goes on the spiritual side. Like it it gets wiped. It's like a hard drive, right? You can have a hard drive and you wipe it clean, but you still have the physical hard drive that stores the memory, but it just doesn't have all of that memory that it once had on it. Um, and that's kind of, think of the Minni as the hard drive. So if you wipe it clean, there's no data there. It just doesn't remember it. Um, and that's why a lot of people don't remember the past lives, and that's why a lot of people don't believe in past lives, is because that part gets wiped clean. Everything gets wiped clean on that hard drive. Sometimes you have a corruption in the wipe, and you end up remembering, aspects of a past life or many different past lives, and that's kind of a cool thing for some people, but it could also be a traumatic, depending on the memory that they um, kept held on to. Does that answer that question, or was that kind of just a roundabout, not a very good explanation of it? I'll take a moment. Well, I'll continue actually, because it takes like 30 seconds to a minute for things to catch up. Um, Storytelling and teaching, yeah, I pretty much already covered that one. So it's like a really good one for me to explain. This one is part of the whole reason I got into all of this stuff. Um, when I was young, my grandmother, it was more of a curiosity if you remember the past lives outside of the physical realm when you die, but continue. I mean, there have been stories, so that has a lot to do with the shamanic traveling part into the Huger, which we're going to get into the Hug in lesson 4 really, really deep. That's actually where I'm going to. Oh, that was another thing I was asked. Sorry, squirrel ADHD moment. Something else I was asked was, hey, Ken, why didn't you jump into talking about the gods right away? I mean, this is Norse paganism. All everybody does is be like, hail Thor, or hail Odin, for Freya, and all that stuff. Well, there's a lot more depth that needs to be taught first before you really go into the gods. You need to understand what makes up your soul first, and how you interact with the immediate world before you start interacting with the gods, because they are a lot more complicated than the basics. Anyways, but your thing will probably get covered more in lesson 4, your question there, because that starts talking about going into the other realms. And I'm really excited for lesson 4 because lesson 4 was where when I learned about all of it, my mind just made, and I saw everything, and everything started making sense for me. Anyways, I've taken forever to talk about the storytelling thing. Um, so when I was younger, my grandmother on my father's side, she's pure Norwegian. She would tell me stories that she was told from her grandfather, and her grandfather is the man. So that'd be my third great grandfather. Yeah, he was the man who migrated with his family from Trondheim, Norway, and came over to America. And he would bring with him all of the Norwegian stories, and she would listen to them, and then she would pass those stories down to me. That is the ancestral Minni getting passed along. And I'll be, at some point, taking those stories, and I'll pass them on to my kid. And we'll keep that chain going. That's that ancestral memory. Now we'll go on to the next part, because I kind of really heavily focused here and kind of all over the place. And I'm trying to keep this under an hour. Reflective practice, engaging in deep thought and self-reflection alongside with the hug. Again, that's going to be really important. It's all mental in that spot. That's kind of like meditation, to analyze one's own experience and integrate them as a usable memory. So it's like you had something happen, you step back, you reflect, analyze it, be like, what could I learn from that? What did that teach me? If that makes sense. And then you build off of it and you improve yourself. Minni's connection to other components, the dual intellect, pretty much already gone into. It's a two-part thing. To form the complete intelligence, the hug generates new thoughts and seeks information, while the Minni provides the context and experience against which new thoughts are tested. And then with the hammer or hem, action based off of experience, the hammer acts, but the Minni dictates how it acts. So like that natural reaction of like, oh, that didn't feel good, so now I'm having that, whoa, hey, let's not do that. Or like something felt really good, and so you're like, addiction, right? Addiction. Something you got a hit of something, bam, man, that felt good. So you want to go back for it because you remember how good that felt. We'll go into the fyoga. Subconscious guidance. The animal form of the fyoga often reflects the character forged by past actions, memory. The fyoga acts as a subconscious guide, communicating to the individual through instinct and symbols rooted in the Minni. That's going to be a fun one to try to explain that one. The fyoga acts as a subconscious guide. That one's going to be a lot harder for me to explain, that one. So your fyoga gets pretty much designed around your past actions, what you end up remembering about yourself, and then when you interact with somebody else, if they have a strong enough sight to see your fyoga, that will then project that out to them so they understand what past experiences you've had. I hope that makes sense. That one was complicated because it's very abstract. So the Haminga, how it interacts with the Haminga, luck through wisdom. This is a pretty thick one, so I'm hoping I can get in under an hour. A family's Haminga or inherited luck is the sustained, what does he say? Late but here. Well, I'm glad you're at least here. Because, I took a long time to get started. Because complications with Facebook, because Facebook being stupid. So the way the Minni interacts with the Haminga, luck through wisdom, a family's Haminga, inherited luck, is sustained by the wise actions and decisions informed by the collective Minni. A family that forgets its past and wisdom loses its ability to generate fortune. So if you start forgetting about your ancestral past, that ancestral luck that you got starts to dissolve away. If that makes sense. And if you forget it completely, you have to start building your Haminga all over again because it just doesn't exist anymore because you forgot it. You didn't pass on the legacy. You didn't pass on that knowledge to your next generation, and eventually it just goes out. And my fire needs a piece of wood. Oh, that's not okay. All right, I might need the tweezers. Oh, that's my nail. I have a splinter that just went off the bed of my fingernail. Eh, Ow, ho, ho, ho. Hey, hon, where's your tweezers? Oh, it's not much, but yeah, that's really in there. Live wood, my dudes. I got it. I got it. I got it. Never mind. She's gonna go get it anyways. Ow. Yeah, I splintered right off my fingernail. Sorry. Whew. Minnie's connection to the leak. I know, right? The game. Uh, um, physical embodiment. The memories and ancestral wisdom contained in the Minni inform the non-physical self, but they are stored and made accessible through the brain and instincts of the living leak. Um, so it's kind of like, again, with that reaction thing, your basic instincts. Um, yeah, it's like you have that second, like the hair, kind of stands up on edge. You get this weird feeling. Yeah, that's how those two interact. The Landvettir, historical context. The Minni preserves the historical record of a community's successful or failed reciprocal relationship with the local Landvettir, ensuring future generations know which sites to honor and which practices to avoid. So if things, now this is kind of sad, because if you think about it, the Celts, who very much followed this with the Druidic path, they lost a lot of their history because the Romans came in and just pretty much wiped it all out. So they don't know the proper way that they would have, or the sacred sites that they would have had, or like a really important one to all of Scandinavian and Germanic descents is the location of Irminsul, which is the world pillar, aka Yggdrasil, which again will go in lesson 4. I cannot wait for lesson 4. We lost where the locations are. So the super spiritual sites, we've lost a lot of those. So our impact with those Landvettir, we can't do because our Minni doesn't remember, because people came in and destroyed it, and then they destroyed the people, and it was never passed on. And of course, we also didn't write anything down in the past for some silly reason. Maybe don't teach all of your druids to have it up here when they can get killed. Maybe write it down. All right. So, moving on. We are going to go to, we went to the leak, we did the Minni. This is not in order for some reason. We're going to go to the Oder. This is the intellect, inspiration, and ecstatic frenzy. This one's going to be really important to those who venerate Odin. So, the Oder, pronounced Othur or Oder, is also, when you see this weird little symbol right there, and usually has like a T across it, it's like a D apostrophe TH. It's a dthur. That's the slower way to say it, but durth. Anyways, it's component of the self associated with the divine inspiration of ecstasy, frenzy, spiritual passion. Its Old Norse root means mind, wit, sense, but also song, poetry, mad, furious, or raging. So, when you get angry, that feeling you have when you're an Oder. When you're going at it, and you peak, and you feel that flow that's going through, that's your Oder. You get, something happens, like you say you're in a car wreck, and then all of a sudden you're jittery and stuff, and you have that adrenaline. That adrenaline is Oder. It's the altered state of your conscious mind under an effect. That is your Oder. Why is it important? For creative and genius, it is the source of all artistic and scholarly creativity. So, I don't know if Steve's watching or not, but we have a neighbor who absolutely loves to produce music. He loves to play instruments. While he's doing the music, he is allowing his Oder to flow. He is getting all of that out. That sensation that you have. Like, I don't know if you've ever watched some musicians, and they'll just like get into like a weird face, or they'll just like really get into it. Yeah, your Oder is flowing while you're doing it. Like Lars from Metallica. Yeah, from Metallica, because I know names. My, the drummer. I knew that. I'm terrible with names, so I hope we're all good. Um, it's not really the original gift. I kind of wrote that ahead of time because the first gift is this one right here, the breath of life, and that's in like the creation story. Um, in the creation myth, I don't know why I wrote it that way. Hold on, let me ask him. One of the three gods. Oh, the gift. Yeah, that was not meant for that. That was meant for older. I wrote that. Ignore that entire paragraph because that completely goes with Omp. Ken, you're stupid. Um, the Odin connection. The name of the chief god is Odin. Literally means master of Older or the frenzy one. This will again be extremely important in lesson 4. I really hope a lot of you guys can attend for lesson 4 because lesson 4 is going to blow your guys' mind if you're not 100% aware what all this stuff means. Um, so, uh, where was I at? Divine Madness. Oh, that was up there at the top. I already went over all that. So poetry, um, which grants this power, is another embodiment of Older. So like again, it's within that creativity. So like when I write a lot of songs. So when I'm writing it and I'm getting that flow going, that's an expression of Older. Um, so it's your creativity, frenzy. I pretty much covered all of that. In combat, Older is the state of fury that can overwhelm things. Your connection is lagging. Well, I'm sorry. Route 406. Is that Steve? Is Route 406 Steve? Because that would make sense. Um, so so this is when like a berserker or the Ulfhed Nod, when they go into battle, they get themselves really frenzied up, and you hear stories of them biting their shield. They're getting themselves in a state of odor, which is again going to be really important in the future thing, but I'll basically brief over it. So like everybody thinks that to get into Valhalla, you need to die in battle. That is not the actual case. If you look at the original text, it talks about other instances of getting into Valhalla, and all of them have one thing in common. Every person who dies, who goes into Valhalla, is in a state of odor. That is the most crucial and important part into getting into Valhalla, is you need to be in a state of odor. That's why it's really important, and that's why the Berserkers and the Ulfhednod would rile themselves up into that frenzy, and why they would venerate Odin as their prime god. That is also true. And the reason why, one of the reasons why, it's not the sole reason why blacksmiths go to Valhalla, is they were also the ones that never got sent to battle because they were so damn important. Without a blacksmith, you have no army. They were considered one of the most valuable people in societies because it's not like a baker. You'd be like, hey, here's some yeast and here's some flour, throw it together, see what you can get. You'll get some sort of flour or some sort of bread. No, blacksmithing took a lot of knowledge and skill. I made my Mjolnir right here. It was the first thing I ever made out of blacksmithing. It's not the best. It took a lot of work, and I think I was hammering on this thing for about 6 hours before I got it anywhere close to where I was happy with it. Um, it's got a lot of character, but it could have been better. But it's because I don't have the knowledge up here to, build one properly that you'll see. But I personally, I like this. It's a lot more sentimental and raw. I think everybody should at least try it once. Um, direct divine connection. When an individual is filled with odor, they are temporarily acting as a vessel for a divine primal energy, the very same energy that defines Odin's power. It is an act of communication with the divine, which again will be extremely important in lesson 4. The need to project your fugue using the odor to travel is is very important. That's how you get into the shamanic meditation states, how you get to prophecies, how you pretty much have spiritual travel. Odor is a fuel. And again, we will get onto that in lesson 4, so I don't want to go too far into that. But yeah, black. All right. Scroll that back down. All right. Because I'm kind of taking a while. Dynamics of consciousness. In a complete human, odor works with the other individual components to create true inspired consciousness. So the way that it interacts with, let's see, role in the ecstatic state. The Hugh, the analyzer, provides the structure, will, and current consciousness to harness and direct the raw power of the odor. That is, again, what I was talking about when you're projecting it out with your Hugh. That's how that's working out. The steering wheel on a chariot. That's the analog to that. It's, or a vehicle, you know. Again, we'll get into that one on lesson 4. For the Minni, the context supplies the deep ancestral and personal knowledge that the aesthetic inspiration of odor can synthesize into genius or profound poetry. This is the map and terrain of knowledge. Odor, it's the engine. Remember this, it is the engine. The raw, passionate, and often frightening power that pushes Hugr and Minni beyond their ordinary limits to create the extraordinary. This is one of the ones I cannot stress enough is super important. That has to go with your Hugh. It's going to be paramount in lesson 4. The flame or the wild horses. That's the analog for that. So now we're going to go on to Ond. This is the divine breath of life. So that's your Ond. You need to be able to control your Ond because it's what gives you life. And if you don't know how to control it and you stop breathing, you have no more Ond. It's also called Und. I believe that's how the Norwegians pronounce it, is Und. More like an Und. I don't know. If I'm being weird and ridiculous, let me know. Und, pronounced also Aund. Und and Aund is the spiritual component that translates to breath, life, or spirit. It is the most primary animating force directly connecting the physical body to the flow of the cosmos, aka the flow of the energy around us. We breathe it, we inhale the exterior forces around us to give us life, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. The vital force, the Ond, is the breath of life itself, the energy that transforms an inanimate object, like a log of wood, okay, not the creation story part, into living being. When Und leaves the leak body, life ends, like I said. If you can't breathe, you die. All right? And then you start going and traveling the cosmos during your Hilger state of being. And that's a whole lot of fun. And see, this is why I was trying to say, I put it in the wrong spot. It's the first divine gift. When in the creation story, where Odin ends up giving life and like they go to create mankind, the first thing Odin does is he puts the breath of life into Ash and Embla. So in the myth of creation of the first human, Ash and Embla, the lifeless logs, were given 3 vital gifts by the god Odin, Vili, and Ve. And Odin is explicitly stated as the god who gave them Ond, breath of life, shared principle. Unlike the other parts of the self, like Hugr and Minni, Und is less about individual personality and more of a universal life principle that flows through all the living beings, humans, gods, and animals, and is the raw energy of existence. I think everybody can understand what that means. Without Und, your dog can't live, your cat can't live, the fish in the water, even though they're in the water, can't live because they got gills and they get the breath of life by taking that oxygen out of the water and using it. You need your Ond, everything needs Ond, your trees need Ond, right? They take in all that stuff and they put out oxygen. Their Ond is a little bit different than ours. So we're going to go with that. I'm going to move to the next one because we got Minni, Ond, Older. that actually puts us into Draupnir, which is the final basis component. So we pretty much, from lesson 1 to lesson 2, went over 8 different aspects of the soul. In the myth stories, there's a ring, for those who don't know, it's called Draupnir. It is one of the gifts that was given to Odin. Well, Odin got a couple gifts, and then other gods got other gifts. I think Freyr got he got a boar and a boat, and Odin got the ring, and he got a spear. And then Thor got, I think there were 6 gifts in total. Thor got Mjolnir, and Sif got golden hair. That's 6 gifts. All right. But Draupnir is the ring that Odin was given from a competition that some dwarves ended up having to do because Loki got involved and tricked him into this competition because he was a dum-dum and took off all of Sif's hair, and Thor was going to kill him if he didn't, so he convinced some dwarves to make some stuff and then give him his gifts to the gods. Right? So, Draupnir is one of those rings. The reason this is important, in the myths, it says that Draupnir, every 9 nights, drips 8 rings. Often when you're going through the myths and the sagas, the word nights, when you refer to 9 nights, it often refers to 9 months. How many months does it take people to create a human being? Or a woman? 9 months. Thanks, you wives. She had to go through all 9 of those for our child. So, there's a heavy correlation between Draupnir. Once you go through the 9 months, all 8 parts come together. It has formed Draupnir, the circle of life. Anybody? Okay. All right. I know I'm weird. All right. Now I'll actually read from the context of which I got. The core of the theory is that the total self is represented by Draupnir itself, and the 8 rings that drop every 9 nights represents the 8 essential components of living a whole human being. The self as Draupnir, the whole. Draupnir, in Old Norse, means the dripper. I probably should have gone over that. So drip, drip, drip. Oddly enough, when you get to that 9 months, it's going to sound a little gross. My wife will understand it. When you get to that 9 months and your Draupnir is ready, the first thing that happens is the water breaks. Thus, the dripper. It does not get old. Draupnir, dripper, is Odin's magical arm ring that creates 8 new identical rings every 9 nights. Hopefully that wasn't too intense for you people. 9 nights. 9 nights is a... Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have a feeling I talk too fast. But then again... Blah, 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 blah. The ring Draupnir represents the entire unified immortal spiritual self. I'm pretty much going over all of that. Perfected by Odin, the Allfather. Held. It is the source of all individual parts and is tied to concepts of abundant cycles and the eternal return. The 8 rings, the 8 identical rings that drip from Draupnir, represent 8 individual, distinct, yet equal important components that are required to form a complete, active human. Pretty much already went over that. I don't even know why I have this, because I already know all of this, and I'm pretty much talking about it. So, in basic components of the rings, your leek is the corpse and body. Your hammer is the skin, shape, and form that goes over the body. Your ond is the breath of life, and your life force, which will be important in a little, like lesson 5, I think it is, when we talk about Thor. Your odor is your frenzy and inspiration. This is your feelings and your emotions that go wee all over the place. Hugr, your thought, mind, and personality. Minni is your memory, your Fiogo, follower, attendant spirit. Haminga, luck, fortune, ancestral power. So those are all of your 8 parts to the ring. The concept of the integrated self. Draupnir theory emphasizes that the person is not a single indivisible soul. I really don't like that word. It's very Christian based. but rather an integrated system of specialized parts, which is kind of accurate. There's a lot of parts moving to make you a single being there. Unity in municipality, multiplicity. I have had too much alcohol. I can't even read. It's all blurring together now. All 8 rings are identical in weight and gold value, which that's why they're all 8 identical rings, right? Signifying that while components are distinct, they are all equally necessary to the integrity of the whole. Abundance and legacy. Draupnir's ability to replicate itself speaks to the transmission of the Haminga and luck, ancestral fortune, and the continuity of the spirit. The 8 new rings created every 9 nights symbolizes the cycle of life and death and rebirth, like the whole circle of life I think I was telling you about, where the essence of the original self lives on in descendants. That little dude over there, y'all can't see. Or in a transformed state. The Odin link, since Draupnir belongs to Odin, the god of Und and Oder, Huger and Minni, or Hugh and Minni. Like there's a lot of references to Odin in this. Vias is ravens, Hugin and Munin. The ring serves as the perfect symbol of the divine source and mastery over these human-making components. The act of placing Draupnir on Baldur's funeral pyre is the subsequent retrieval up from hell. Wow, let me reread that one. The act of placing Draupnir on Baldur's funeral pyre and its subsequent retrieval from hell suggests the wholeness of the self can journey between worlds and return. Again, super important for lesson 4. Which I'll probably be able to do without this stupid sheet of paper to remember things, because that one was one of my favorite things to go over and really was the thing that inspired me to do all of this. All right, so I'm just going to get rid of that because it's really kind of dumbing things down for me. It just doesn't flow very well. So with that being said, if anyone has any questions, I pretty much covered everything. Or somebody has something that they want to add in, you can add something in, or you can ask things. I'm not going to mess with that sheet of paper anymore because I really need to get used to doing this without needing reference materials. I mean, I have it all up here, but I kind of use it as a guide because I don't do this a whole lot, but whatever, whichever. I think that's really the only critique I have on myself. Hold on. Is there a pop-up chat for this option? Because that would be cool. Close. Hey, look. There's a whole bunch of chats that I wasn't able to see because I popped that out. Next Saturday on YouTube straight away instead of Facebook? Yes. I will be. I think I'm just going to be doing YouTube from here on out. Facebook is just too much of a headache at this point. It's very interesting connecting the concepts to other cultures and faiths like Hinduism and Shintoism. They basically say the same thing with different names and rituals. Yes, again, I did this thing where I was like, wow, because I was studying all sorts of different religions. I'm like, wow, there's so many connections. We're going to put them all together. If you are noticing this connection with Hinduism, I highly recommend tuning in to lesson 4, because I'm going to go over the meaning of Yggdrasil, which happens to be a direct mimic of the Axis Mundi. Lesson 4 is 100% where it's at. Yeah, that's why I'm building up. Like, lesson 4 is so amazing. Yeah, 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks. Isn't that Thanksgiving weekend? Yeah. Oh. Y'all better tune in Thanksgiving weekend. Y'all better not be busy like at all. But anybody have any questions? I'm actually tempted to skip over lesson 3 to get into lesson 4, but Lesson 3 is going to go over. Yes. I was having it as an arrow. You got to pull it all the way up. Anyways, lesson 3 is going to go over the Orlog and the Weird. No questions. Okay, so that means that I did a really good job in explaining everything to everybody. With. Okay, if they have a really long question. He's good. There's good. There's 07. Yes, you definitely need to go back and watch lesson 1. Highly recommend it. All right, so with that being said, if nobody has any more questions, I am going to play the outro song, and this is pretty much concludes it. I will be back next week. It will be later. We do have a baby shower to go to next week, so I can't promise that I'm going to be here at 6. So I'm thinking either 7 or 8. I'll figure that one out a little bit more. It'll be on Friday, Saturday. I might actually just make it on Sundays because, so the way my shift goes, so you guys just understand this, is I wake up at Friday night at like 8:30, 9-ish, and I work all through the night, get off around 10 to 12 in the afternoon, and then I stay up. So by the time 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock hits, I'm already up for 22 hours. So anyways, I'm going to play this outro song, and y'all enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you guys next weekend at probably about 7 or 8 in the evening Mountain Time. Ciao.
My children, you return. Thirsty for wisdom, I see. Where is the path of life? Listen now, for the truth is always due. The 3 you know, Hooker, Filgia, Hammingya. They wait for the 5 unseen to guide you through. The weak is the body, the frame of the earth, the bone and the muscle that define your true worth. Is the vessel, the flesh, the skin that you wear, the limits of being that the elements share. Up, 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 up.
Yes, I definitely meant to do that.
Your heart is the breath, the eternal deep fire, the spark of the life that will lift your soul higher. It's the vital force that the gods breathed inside. The power keeps your core spirit alive. Your older is the frenzy, the wild and the strong, the flash of invention that carries your song. It's the spirit unbound, the ecstasy bright, the rush of great insight that guides you to find. Oh, the gold of Draupnir, the ultimate game, the ring of your soul that renews through the pain. Your single true self, it is perfectly cast, a power that lives on from first to the last. Remember, these 3 are the source of your core, the heat and the vessel and the wildness of lore. Now look to the shifting, the memories, the shapes that you wear and the vows that you keep. Your hammer is the shape, the ethereal guise, the flexible form that your consciousness tries. It's the shimmering aura that others can tell, the appearance of self bound by magic and spell. Your Minni is deep where the ancestors call, the wisdom and language that live after the fall. It stores every promise, every deed and every vow, the strength of the bloodline that empowers you now. These 5 join the 3 that we named long ago, the full 8 components that help your power grow. Oh, the gold of Draupnir, the ultimate game, the ring of your soul that renews through the pain. Your single true self, it is perfectly cast, a power that lives on from first to the last. Remember the 9, noted on for the prize, the runes whispered low beneath the cold skies. 9 nights for wisdom, 9 months for the birth, the spiritual gestation that gives your parts worth. Every 9th night, the 8 rings descend, the cycle of rebirth that will never end. Oh, the gold of Draupnir, the ultimate the action and leg moves the feet. A soul held together by memories call. The parts working freely lest the self starts to fall. The five unseen forces the gods have decreed. The leak out and know they're the spirit in need. They join hammer and Minni, the shadows they cast, to weave all the learning from first to the last. For only through knowledge of all that you are can you master your fate and travel afar. The nine parts are spinning, a life-giving wheel, the wholeness of self that the wise ones can feel. The gold of Draupnir is forged of the eight, a circle of power that conquers all fate. The self is complete, the cycle is run, a new life awakened, the victory won. The wisdom of Odin waits in the wholeness of your own ring. Be renewed. Be all eight. Be the gold.
Call.